The Supreme Court Thursday dismissed the latest challenge to the Affordable Care Act. The justices ruled 7-2 to uphold the Obama-era law. They argued Republican-led states and two individuals who brought the lawsuit did not have legal standing to challenge the constitutionality of the law's individual mandate. That's a requirement for people to either buy health insurance or pay a penalty. The ruling is a major win for Democrats and President Biden, who have sought to protect the law more commonly known as Obamacare. Mr. Biden has promised to expand the law during his presidency. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford has more on the court's decision.
With today's decision, both sides suggested the fight was over.
The Supreme Court has just ruled the ACA is here to stay.
The Affordable Care Act gets constantly woven deeper and deeper into the system. It's eventually going to be pretty hard to unravel.
President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act into law in 2010, with then Vice President Biden telling him. Today, President Biden tweeted that the ruling was a big win and the law remains, as ever, a BFD. Over the past decade, the law has reshaped the entire insurance industry and provides coverage for more than 30 million Americans. But President Trump vowed to repeal it, and with 3 new conservative justices he appointed now on the Supreme Court, 18 red states took another swing, arguing once again that the law exceeded Congress's powers. It was a third strike, their worst defeat yet, a 7-2 ruling throwing the lawsuit out of court. 4 of the court's conservatives, including Trump appointees Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, joined Justice Stephen Breyer's majority opinion, which said the states had no grounds to challenge it because they have failed to show it caused them any harm.
And the justices, by a strong majority, have said Congress decided to keep the ACA and we are not going to strike it down.
In a separate case about religious freedom, the justices were unanimous, ruling the city of Philadelphia was wrong to cut ties with a Catholic organization because it refused to provide foster care services to same-sex couples.
Those who expected consistent ideological divisions on the new Roberts Court were wrong.
And Jan Crawford joins me now from the Supreme Court. Jan, how much of a surprise was it that some of the more conservative justices ruled against eliminating the ACA?
Well, look, I mean, after the arguments back in the fall, I think it was pretty clear that the Supreme Court and some conservative justices were not going to overturn the Affordable Care Act. The question really in this case was how they were going to do it and how many people were going to go along with it. But after those arguments, certainly Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Barrett seemed very skeptical of this litigation. They seemed like they were clearly ready to go and say, look, this is fine.
Jen, I'm wondering, as somebody who has watched the Supreme Court forever, really, what do you read in the tea leaves about how the court's 6-3 conservative majority might decide future issues?
You know, that's a great question, and I think that it's just too soon to say. I mean, I wish I had an answer, but this term is not a particularly exciting one. They don't have a lot of those big blockbuster cases where you can see them kind of swinging for the fences and prompting a lot of disagreements. So we didn't really get a lot of clues this term. That is going to change as soon as they take the bench when they return in October for next term. They are going to decide so many of the most contentious issues that are in our society today, including a major challenge to Roe versus Wade. So this is really going to be the test this next term, and I think we'll get a lot more clues about how these justices are going to approach cases. I would not really read into a lot that you see so far. It's just too soon.
I'm wondering, too, because this is the third time, as we've heard, that the Supreme Court has rejected a challenge to the Affordable Care Act. Do you expect more legal battles in the future?
No. I think that both sides are starting to see that the Supreme Court is not interested in overturning Obamacare. And they can keep filing challenges and filing lawsuits, but they're just wasting their money. I mean, I think that today the decision was their worst defeat yet, 7-2. Remember, the first one was, I think, a shock the other way. I think most people thought initially when the court first had its Obamacare challenge back in 2012 that the conservatives were going to overturn it. It was a huge shock when Jan Roberts switched and voted with liberals 5-4 to uphold the Affordable Care Act. Then the next go round, it was 6-3, and then of course today 7-2. So as Senator Blunt says, that it is getting more and more woven into our society. The court could have done something about it. It didn't. I don't really see much hope for these lawsuits going forward now.
Jan, I also want to talk about another case that you mentioned, the unanimous ruling in favor of a Catholic foster care agency that refused to place children with same-sex couples. Tell us, what are some of the larger implications of that case?
Well, see, this is one of the cases that groups on both sides had said was a major test for this Supreme Court. Some had said that it was a hugely significant for same-sex couples, a discrimination against gays and lesbians. The other side was saying, like, this is a major test of religious freedom, and people should be able to express their views and have their views as long as it's not hurting anybody else. And instead, today, the court really took a very narrow approach. They didn't have any sweeping landmark decisions for religious freedom, for gay rights. It was a very narrow decision that really kind of applies here in Philadelphia and with this one social services agency. Granted, it was a big victory for the Catholic social services and the foster parents there who have been taking referrals from them because they've been doing it for 50 years or so, and they said no same-sex couples had ever even sought to get placement through their organization. So, you know, I think today that, again, when we think about the story of this term and this new Roberts Court with these 3 new conservative justices that President Trump appointed, it's another case where we don't really have a lot of clues. We see a Supreme Court that is trying to find common ground. I do think you see that on both sides. The liberals and the conservatives both would like to kind of lower the temperature and find common ground. They were able to do it a lot this term. But again, that's because this term wasn't very controversial. Next term, Katie bar the door. It is going to be totally different.
Well, the Supreme Court will issue more opinions next week. I'm wondering, Jen, what cases are you really keeping an eye on?
Well, there's really only 2 left that I think, you know, might be we're talking about right now, and they both involve students. One involves whether the NCAA can ban universities from giving student athletes educational benefits, and the other involves the cussing cheerleader, the one who got suspended from her squad because she didn't appreciate not making the varsity team, and so she said some choice words on social media and gestures, and so the school suspended her from the JV squad. She sued and said that she had a right to say that. She wasn't even on school grounds. So I'm really curious how that case is going to come out. That's an important issue, student speech in schools, especially with social media. Does the school have the ability to punish students for what they say off school grounds? So we'll find out next week. My guess is next week will be the last week of the term. They haven't said that, but it looks to me like they're trying to wrap things up by the end of next week.
Yeah, those are two stories that we have certainly covered, and we'll be interested to see that final chapter when it's written. Jan, thank you so much. Always appreciate your expertise.
Oh, thank you.